Hi, my name is Grace, and I'll be reading Growing Up Gullah in the Lowcountry by Josie Olsvig. My name is Veronica. I live with my mother and two brothers in a small house in Mount Pleasant, near Charleston, South Carolina. I have family living all around me in nearby homes, and we all have the same big yard. Our distant grandfather was an enslaved African American. He was given this land in the 1860s after the Civil War. We all live on what is known as heirs property. Some freemen were very lucky and received 40 acres of land, while others had to buy it. They had to carefully save their earnings to purchase parcels of land. From the late 1600s until the mid-1800s, a period of time called the antebellum period, meaning before the Civil War, members of our family lived on big plantations which looked like huge farms. They grew crops like rice, cotton, tea, and a plant called indigo. Indigo was used to add blue coloring to clothes. It was also used as blue paint around windows and door frames to keep bad spirits or haints away. In England, the coloring was used in the textile industry, particularly in making robes for royalty. Our family is Gullah or Geechee. This is both a culture and a choral language. The Gullah language is part English and a variety of West African languages. Most Gullah people come from the West African countries of Sierra Leone, Gambia, Guinea, Liberia, and Senegal. These people possessed important skills in growing rice. The Carolina gold rice was a money-making cash crop from South Carolina back in the 1700s and 1800s. Grammy told me we were called binyas. It's a Gullah term for a person who is from the Lowcountry. It means been here. While tourists or others who move to the area are called komya, meaning they have come here from somewhere else. I love going to Grammy's house. She is just across the way. I also call Grammy Da or Gakama. Traditional names we use for women who are caretakers or grandmothers. Gullah Grammys are the best because they make you feel warm and loved. Yesterday morning, Grammy and I were sitting on her front porch. We snapped peas for dinner as we rocked in big rocking chairs and talked about what it was like growing up in our town of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. It is located right across from the city of Charleston, an old city that dates back to the 1600s. Grammy said that our family has held our property for over 150 years now, since shortly after the Civil War. Most people, like my distant grandfather, used to farm the land to support their families. Nowadays, the property can be used by anyone who is kin to my great-great-great-grandpa. Heirs property is special like that. It belongs to many family members. Grammy and I do a lot of things together because she says I am her best helper. She said that family kitchen didn't always look like it does today. They didn't get a stove until 1859. Before that, they cooked near the fireplace and allowed smoke to go up the chimney. Around that same time, they switched from using oil lamps to electric lamps. They also switched from chilling butter in the backyard water well to cooling it in the refrigerator so it hardens. Our big yard is a wonderful place. We have several palmetto trees. They look similar to a palm tree, but are shorter and have big fan-shaped clusters of leaves. We also have a big oak tree. Grammy said it is nearly 300 years old. Light gray moss hangs from the oak tree. It's called Spanish moss, but it's not Spanish or a moss. It lives on moisture and nutrients in the air. We also have southern magnolia, Confederate jasmine, wisteria, and 4 o'clock bushes. They're beautiful and smell so good. At the rear edge of the yard lies marshland, and within it is pluff mud. It is a shiny brown and gray color. It helps to grow all kinds of plants and small life forms. Pluff mud smells like rotten eggs. It may smell bad, but most Southerners love it since it smells like home. The marshes are the first part of the salty waters that you go through to get to the merging creeks like Shem Creek and the inlets and harbors. From there, you join the flows of the tides and the great expanse of the ocean. Charleston is located on the Atlantic Ocean. Two rivers, the Cooper and the Ashley, create a peninsula, and the city is the tip of it. Mount Pleasant is across the Cooper River from Charleston. For a long time, the only way to get to Charleston from Mount Pleasant was by ferry. Then, around 1929, a steel bridge was built, Grace Memorial Bridge. In 1946, a freighter hit the bridge, causing a lot of damage. It became unsafe and eventually was torn down. Now we have a beautiful new bridge, the Ravenel Bridge, that allows us to go easily from Mount Pleasant down to Charleston. Charleston is an important city and a very historic one. The Civil War began and ended in this city. The first shots of the war were fired in April 1861 at Fort Sumter, an old fort located in the waters by Charleston Peninsula. This is right across from the battery, where there's a park and where the old cannons still sit. We also have an important Civil War era submarine named the H.L. Hunley. It was used in the waters outside Charleston. The Hunley was the world's first combat submarine. 8 very brave soldiers were in the iron sub, and they hand cranked it to make it run. The Hunley now sits in a special place of honor at a working lab with the special sub on display. Another important event occurred in Charleston during the Civil War involving an enslaved African American named Robert Smalls. As a young man, he worked on the Confederate ship called the Planter. He had been hired out by his slave owner in Beaufort, South Carolina. Robert Smalls was a very brave and smart man. He figured out how he, his family, and his crew could seize the ship he worked on and sail it to safety of Union ships and gain their freedom. He seized the ship, the Planter, and sailed it to the Union side of the harbor. Eventually, he became a Union ship captain, the first black captain of an Army ship, and ultimately a United States Congressman. He served 5 terms in that office. The custom of making sweetgrass baskets can be traced back through the heritage in Africa. Making these baskets is a Gullah tradition of over 300 years that our ancestors learned when they lived in West Africa. Grammy makes sweetgrass baskets, and so does my mama. Grammy says that a long time ago, only men made these baskets, but now it's mainly women. Dried sweetgrass is bundled together and coiled in circles. Thin strands of palmetto fronds hold the pieces in place, and bulrush and pine needles are then woven in for decoration and strength. My Uncle Joseph uses his old bicycle to go down to the water and collect the materials that go into making baskets. He goes to the marsh areas where the river meets the ocean. He often gets bulrush, palmetto fronds, and sweetgrass there. Grammy shows me the sewing bones she uses to make these pretty sweetgrass baskets. Sewing bones are sharpened metal spoons. She said people also use what is called nail bone. They are little metal picks made by flattening nails or wilting the rib bones of a cow or pig. We have lots of friends and relatives that sell the baskets all around our town of Mount Pleasant. Basket makers often use special stands to sell them. You can see sweetgrass basket vendors in the city market in downtown Charleston. The original city market was built in the early 1800s on the land that was donated by Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, a local wealthy landowner and politician. The current building was completed in 1841. Originally, only vegetables, meat, and fish were sold there, but now all kinds of goods can be purchased at the city market, especially the beautiful sweetgrass baskets. A long time ago, our family sold flowers and vegetables in downtown Charleston. The flower ladies used to carry their items in big baskets on their heads. It was a great skill to be able to do so. Carrying things this way freed up their hands to carry even more flowers. Children sold flowers door to door. The adult women gathered around Broad Street downtown, the Custom House, and the four corners of the law. The first school in Charleston for African American children was the Avery Normal Institute, founded right after the Civil War in 1865. Initially, the institute taught elementary and high school levels, but it later took the preparation of young teachers. Back then, schools that taught young adults how to become teachers were called normal schools. Since early in United States history, African American slaves were not allowed to learn how to read or write. South Carolina had been the first state to pass laws forbidding it, and so it was important to teach newly freed slaves the skills with along basic math. They needed this knowledge in order to manage a household, to understand budgeting, and to learn a trade so they could live independently. The Avery Normal Institute was established by missionaries from New York, the American Missionary Association, or AMA. It was a very progressive school and only took the best students. The Avery has accomplished many achievements in 150 years it has been in existence. However, one of the more important ones is the teachers and students that helped to establish the first chapter of the NAACP in the state of South Carolina in 1917. After that, Avery students and staff fought to desegregate the schools in the 1960s and participated in a 1969 hospital strike asking for fair wages for workers. Most of the people in my family attended a school in Mount Pleasant called the Lang School. Initially, the Lang School was a high school for African American students only. Like the Avery Institute, it was founded shortly after the Civil War. It also taught recently freed slaves basic reading, writing, and arithmetic along with trade such as woodworking and shoemaking. The Gullah culture has a variety of herbal remedies used for generations. Grammy told me about these special healing medicines and botanicals that she learned as a young girl. Many people make these medicines at home. The remedies are made from things like roots, leaves, berries, tree bark, and herbs. She gives me some of these teas and rubs, like the herb Life Everlasting, when I have a cold. On special days, Grammy and I go down to the water and watch the waves roll in. Grammy says that the Gullah people have always lived near the water. They have fished and collected shrimp and crab in their big nets. Grammy says we have kin that live down in the barrier islands near Beaufort, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. These places are also located on the Atlantic Ocean, just like Mount Pleasant and Charleston. Down by the water, there are also special birds like snowy white egrets, peregrine falcons, kingfishers, and great blue herons. These great birds are beautiful. On Sunday, we always go to church as a family. We go to Goodwill AME Church on Route 17. AME stands for African Methodist Episcopal Church. Grandma says that a long time ago, our family had to sing our praises to God or dance the shout in the building called a praise house. That was before Gullah people had church like we have today. The African Methodist Episcopal Church was founded by African Americans and white missionaries from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The first local AME church was Mother Emanuel Church on Calhoun Street in downtown Charleston. After church, we all go and have a big meal called Sunday Supper. I love all the good food the women in the family make, like Hoppin' John, fried chicken, and red rice, cornbread, and guncha, and molasses cake. If Grammy and I crack lots of pecans on Saturday, sometimes she will make me a special cake with the pecans in it. If I've been really good, they make my favorite shrimp and grits. I love spending time with Grammy. She has so many pretty things in her house. She tells me interesting stories about old times in Mount Pleasant. Grammy is very wise. She says we are very rich in family and culture and in knowing our Gullah Geechee history. Thank you, and again, this is Growing Up in Gullah in the Lowcountry by Josie Olsvig.